Magazine podcast. Y'all go ahead and give him a call at 713-553-6370. Y'all hit me up at Savalas.com. He give it to you straight up with no chaser. Just how I like my yak. Keeping up with the Joneses, so I gotta get paid. Fresh car, hood, and got my arms straight. I'm keeping up with the Joneses. A couple dollars in change. Bad chick on my hip, got paid. And I don't even know who they is. I never met them or hung out with their kids. Didn't get an invitation over the crib. Now that I think about it, I don't know where they live. But shit, I wouldn't even know them if I seen them.
Get ready, America. Up next is the fastest growing podcast in the nation, the Sports Parade Magazine podcast, heard daily by tens of thousands, hosted by the one and only Mark Clark, the man with a New Orleans accent who gives it to you straight with no chaser. Damn, I love that Mark Clark. Give him a call, 713-553-6370. Email him, markclark@sportsparademagazine.com, or follow him on Twitter at markswords or at sportsparademag, or listen via any phone. Simply dial 619-550-0516 and at the prompt number 4. There's no better way to advertise or hit your target market than with the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast. Call 713-553-6370 for rates. And now, without further ado, the man, my main man, he's a bad man, Mark Clark.
Oh, get it, baby, get it, baby, get it, get it, get it. It's your boy Mark Clark, the publishing editor of Sports Parade Magazine at sportsparademagazine.com. And we're so happy to be with you today, July 11th, Thursday. We're going to be talking about everything in the world of sports, but this episode, we're going to be concentrating on the horrific details of this Aaron Hernandez murder investigation, the whole thing about how this affects the New England Patriots, the NFL, just a black mark and a bad day in the history of professional sports when you have a current player, not just any player, but a guy that's considered one of the best in the game, and to be involved in all the sordid details of being maybe not only a murderer, but maybe a multiple murderer, a serial murderer, if indeed he's being investigated now for some other things. But we're going to get into that. We're going to go over the timeline, and we're going to have a Boston legal perspective from Rosanna Cavallaro. She's a Suffolk Law School professor, and she worked under the legendary Alan Dershowitz, the legendary lawyer Alan Dershowitz, and Harvard law professor. So we're going to get her take on some of the evidence that has come forward and where we go forward. And we also delve into the timeline and all the thing about owner Robert Kraft of the Patriots coming out saying that he was duped. We're going to get into everything. We're going to break that case down in today's issue of the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. And as always, follow me on Twitter at MarksWord or at Sports Parade Mag. Because, baby, you know I'm going to give it to you straight with no chasers. There's not going to be any ifs, ands, or buts, or any shades of gray. I'm going to give it to you straight. Because when I'm passionate about something, I'm going to tell you just like it is. But before we delve into that, we're going to get into one of our new sponsors. Very proud to bring on board LeBeur's Casino Lake Charles. LeBeur's Casino Lake Charles. And you just have to go there to understand it's been newly renovated. They have the rooms, they have the hotels, they have more gaming than any casino in the Louisiana area. They draw people from Texas, from Arkansas, from Mississippi. It's just a great place. It's a resort-like atmosphere. They have the wonderful wave pool. They have the lazy pond. They have the sand, the palm trees, the golf course, 5-star restaurants, one of the best buffets that you'll see at any casino in the country. What else can I say? Some of the best payouts. LeBeur's Casino. LeBeur's Casino. Give them a call. LeBeur's Casino in Lake Charles at 866-355-7111. That's 866-355-7111. And remember, when you go to LeBeur's Casino Lake Charles, you have the new My Choice Rewards, where you can choose anything. You can choose if you want a round of golf, if you want cash back, if you want a free rum, if you want a meal at one of those 5-star restaurants, or if you just want to bring your family for a resort-like vacation. Remember, there's no place like LeBeur's Casino Resort in Lake Charles. Give them a call, 866-355-7111. That's 866-355-7111, or go to myleburge.com. Remember, LeBeur's Casino Resort, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Well, let's delve into the timeline for those that have been under a rock and don't realize what's been going on with Aaron Hernandez, the tight end extraordinaire, ex now of the New England Patriots, after he was cut after being arrested for murder. As you know, he was arrested and charged with the death of 27-year-old Olden Lloyd, which happened to be a semi-pro football in that Boston, Connecticut area. And at the arraignment, the prosecutor, William McCauley, gave a 25-minute detailed account of how the prosecution claims Hernandez killed Lloyd using a web of surveillance footage, as well as some really stupid moves after he was first being investigated in terms of the body and the car that was next to the body, which happened to be running by Hernandez. But let's go back. Friday, June 14th. Hernandez and Lloyd were together at a club called Rumor in Boston. Lloyd talks to a group of people, according to eyewitnesses, that Hernandez didn't like. He gets upset, and according to prosecution, that is the motive for the murder. Man, if you talk to people I didn't like, there'd be a whole lot of problems. So I think it is a little bit deeper than that. But if just talking to somebody that somebody else doesn't like gets you killed, man, oh man, there'd be a lot of dead people out of there. Now, Sunday, June 16th, Sunday night, Hernandez is at his home in North Attleboro, and he sends a text to friends from Connecticut saying, "Please make it back, come back." He keeps texting, saying he wants them to come by his house and get together. And then he gets frustrated a half hour later after those texts were sent and says, "Get your ass over here. Hurry your ass up." So, sometimes after 10:30, 11 o'clock that night, the two other friends of Hernandez arrive. On home surveillance system that Hernandez tried to destroy, it's observed that Hernandez is holding a gun and telling one of the two friends that he just can't trust anyone. This is in relation to Olden, the man that was eventually killed, and it says he can't trust anyone. 1:12 a.m., Hernandez and two friends leave the house in a rented silver Nissan Altima, the same car where a shell casing was found and the body of Lloyd, riddled with 5 bullets, was laying next to. 2:10 a.m. Now, they're able to piece this together through people's surveillance cameras in neighborhoods, and also the industrial park where the car and the body was found, also through various businesses and red light traffic cameras. So they're able to piece all this together, the timeline. 2:10 a.m. They stop for gas on their way to Lloyd's house on Faiston Street in Boston. Hernandez buys gas as well as Bubblicious bubble gum and Black and Mild rolling papers. Well, we know what the Black and Mild was for. That was a little weed. And the Bubblicious, I guess he had the munchies. He likes Bubblicious. 2:30 a.m. The three of them arrive at Lloyd's house and text him, "We're here." Lloyd's sister sees them all leave and get in the Nissan Altima. During the drive, allegedly now, Hernandez tells Lloyd that he is upset that he was talking to those people at the club on Friday night. 3:07, Lloyd texts his sister, "Do you see who I'm with?" 3:11, after she doesn't respond, he texts, "Hello." 3:19, the sister finally responds back, "My phone was dead. Who?" Lloyd responds 2 minutes later at 3:22, NFL, indicative of Aaron Hernandez. A minute later, Lloyd texts his sister, "Just so you know, just so you know. Seems to be she's telling him this is going to wind up bad, this could be bad, even though I don't know if he knew it was going to lead to his death less than an hour later. 3:23 a.m. Hernandez called at the same time that Lord is texting. Hernandez car is seen on a security camera driving to a secluded area in an industrial park. The area is used to store gravel and sand, and he is out of the view of security cameras, but they do see them all driving in. Less than 5 minutes later, Lord is shot 5 times with a .45 caliber semi-automatic weapon. He is shot 3 times, and he's still alive when he falls to the ground. He is then shot twice more in the back to make sure he was dead. Workers at a nearby industrial business heard the gunshots. Less than a minute after that, there's surveillance footage of the car speeding out of the industrial park in the direction of Hernandez's house. 2 minutes later, Hernandez's car pulls up outside his house. A minute later, according to surveillance in Hernandez's home that he tried to destroy but was unable to, the 3 men go into Hernandez's house. One of them is holding a semi-automatic gun. They go to the basement, turn off the home security system. 6 to 8 hours of home surveillance footage goes missing, but before they turned it off and tried to destroy it, it is seen Hernandez carrying a gun in the home, the same caliber and type of gun that killed Odin. The next day, Hernandez trades in the silver Nissan for a different rental car. The driver's side mirror is damaged, but Hernandez says he doesn't know how it happened. After he leaves, the rental car attendant finds a shell casing and a piece of the bubble-issued gun under the driver's seat that Hernandez was driving. The investigation reveals the casing matches the casings at the crime scene of the bullet-riddled body. 5:30 that next day, Lord's body is found by a jogger. In addition to the Lord murder, Hernandez is also being investigated for an August 2012 double murder. Man, it just doesn't get any worse than that. Bad character all the way around. Just a bad character. Boy, I tell you, when you hear stuff like that, when you hear it, it really just like, it's like, wow. Is it really this bad? Is this what's been going on? But evidently, this is exactly what's been going on. So we had a few questions, and we wanted to go to someone that was of a legal mind, because sometimes, even though we view things as fans, as media, as clear-cut in terms of the case, sometimes maybe the evidence may not be as strong as we think. Now, it's pretty much sure that Hernandez is a bad character. He's been involved in incidents, and we'll go over that later in the show, but he's been involved in several incidents. He has gang affiliations to the Bloods. He's professed his allegiance even after making the NFL, so this isn't a mistake of youth. This is something he's been involved in actively in terms of gangs and gang-like activity and shootings. Already being sued civilly for a man that lost his eye after Hernandez allegedly shot him outside yet another club in the eye, but did not want to press charges, as is usually the way when you're dealing with thieves, drug dealers, murderers, bad characters, gang members. There is no quote-unquote legal justice. It's just street justice. So he didn't want to press any charges, but they were suing civilly, given the amount of money and the $50 million extension that Hernandez just signed. But as far as the law, there were no charges pressed. But it was obvious to everyone in Boston media that what you were dealing with was a pretty bad character. Now, we want to go a little further, so we talked to Roseanne Cavalier, a legal expert. She's a professor of law at Suffolk Law School and a former employee and colleague of Alan Dershowitz, a legendary lawyer. So we just had to answer one of the first questions. what do you think about the evidence against Aaron Hernandez?
Well, I mean, obviously the police have been meticulous going back to these two apartments 8 different times, collecting every last piece that they can that will create this circumstantial web. As you said, some of the pieces we have not heard about are still missing, but there seems to be glimmers of additional evidence, that is to say that they did a gunshot residue kit on a mattress, that there's clothing and other material that they might be able to link to Hernandez himself on the night of, or other relevant time frames that are captured on video. So it's just
Captured on video, man. I tell you what, that's pretty rough when you think about when they went to question Hernandez. It was strictly about the car, the rental car found next to the body, because it was in his name, and it could have been. It was a. I don't think they anticipated. The Connecticut police, I don't think they anticipated that some kind of way it was going to be a situation where Aaron Hernandez, the hometown hero, the NFL superstar, the New England Patriots, all the rah. I don't think they anticipated that he was actually a suspect, but they said, well, this is rented in his name. Maybe this is one of his friends. Maybe this is some relative. Let's talk to him. The minute they went to the house, he just slammed the door in their face before they could get any question. They said, it's in regards to your car. There was a murder. He didn't even ask who was murdered. He just slammed the door, and before that, he says, why all the questions? Why all the questions? And when they told him it was about a murder, because they were just asking him about the car at first, he slams the door in their face. He doesn't even want to know who was murdered. Very, very telling, which really piqued their curiosity. But I'll tell you what, when you talk about cases and you talk about situations like that, we had to ask Ms. Cavallaro, why is all this evidence being made public so quickly? Because normally prosecutors hold it close to the vest. So we had to ask, why is it being made so public right now?
it's really about timing. That is to say, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago, the prosecution may have felt more strongly like we don't want this information to be out in the media, because we want to be able to go back 3, 4, 5 times to the same property if we need to. And right now we want to keep our cards very close to the vest. And at this point, you know, what they've done, and they're pretty much finished sweeping through those properties. So the fact that what they retrieved becomes public now is, I think, much less important than it might have been when they asked that this stuff be impounded. So it really was about timing more than
About timing. So now, as the case builds, the prosecutors are more and more forthcoming with evidence, and it's, where it may be circumstantial, it's extremely telling and powerful. Now, before his arrest, most people thought, well, he's going to be arrested for being an accessory after the fact. But now, it seems maybe that he actually orchestrated it. And let's go back. We talked a little bit about, you know, Odin texting his sister, do you see who I'm with? And before that, Hernandez getting so upset because he saw him in a club talking to people. Now people say, was he talking to the rival in the gang? Was it and see, since Hernandez is a blood, was it a Crip? Or even further, was he talking to people that were on the side of the person that he actually shot in the eye that he's being sued for civilly? Another criminal. Was it a situation like that he thought maybe he was about to drop a dime? That goes back to the Hernandez text when he's getting his 2 buddies over. You know, I can't trust anyone. And maybe this murder was to get rid of a potential witness against him civilly, if not criminally, in that incident where he shot the guy in the eye. But then we have to go back. He's also being investigated for another separate double murder in Boston over a year ago. This guy is dirty as they come. So we asked Ms. Cavallaro, you know, why is he charged with murder and why isn't there a lesser charge of accessory after the fact?
it's interesting because even if he was not the shooter, he could be charged with murder on a theory of, being the joint venture or the person who was the mastermind behind the shooting. But it may be that the combination of evidence that they have from the videos suggests that he was the shooter. And I think they're waiting to see probably whether they can get some cooperation from either of these two other guys that would, again, fill in those gaps that a circumstantial case sometimes has. I mean, there's nothing like a witness firsthand.
Nothing like a witness, baby. You got that right, Ms. Cavallaro. Nothing like a witness. Now, I can tell you right now, even before this case comes about, I can tell you right now, it's going to be a situation where the people that are going to be testifying against him are going to be very, very dirty themselves, because Hernandez has aligned himself with people. He's aligned himself with people that are not good characters. They're going to be criminals. So the defense attorney, and he can afford the best because he still has a big bonus that he got, millions of dollars, so he can have the best defense. They're going to attack the credibility, and all of these witnesses are going to have credibility issues. But given the fact of the timeline that's been able to be put together through all of the different cameras, all of the different media outlets, the text and stuff of that nature, the timeline of his car moving, of people getting of his car, of him having a gun, put that with the circumstantial evidence of him hiring a house cleaners to scrub the house, scrub the mansion, destroying the actual in-house surveillance system, trying to destroy that, trying to destroy cell phones. All of those different things will lead up to, I think, a pretty strong case. But we have to ask, is this a strong case?
I mean, again, I'm only getting the bits and pieces that you all have gotten, but it just seems like kind of a mountain. And yes, people can say, well, it's only circumstantial, but I mean, if every dot is in the dot to dot, then it doesn't really matter that it's circumstantial. I think, they seem to be developing a theory of motive. They've got all this other material that links him, and this chronology of video that takes us from point A to point B very clearly. I think it's a real uphill battle for...
Uphill battle. That's the point I was making about the chronology of events, the timeline that's able to be documented very easily because of simply why. It's been able to be documented because of all of the video evidence that they have. They have so many cameras. They have surveillance cameras at his home, despite the fact that they were turned off after they came back from the murder. They have neighbor surveillance footage. They have surveillance footage at the industrial park where they're seeing them coming in and leaving, minus Odin. There's shell casings and surveillance footage from the rental car place. There's just so much that was able to be pieced together. Oftentimes, when you don't have that physical timeline to back it up, you have to just surmise a lot of things. And a lot of times that's more easily defeated in a court of law by defense attorneys because it's sublimation. But this is going to be pretty telling. But we have to ask Ms. Cavallaro, what, in her opinion as a legal expert, is the strongest evidence so far against Mr. Hernandez?
The video going in and out of the industrial park. I mean, the timing is so tight there. And what on earth are people doing there otherwise if they're not participating in this shooting, which we have witnesses who overheard gunshots? And again, the fact that the time frame is so tight, it's going to be very hard to give some sort of innocent explanation for what those drive-in, drive-out videos are revealing.
What were they doing there? What were they doing there? Why did he try to destroy the evidence? Why did he try to destroy surveillance footage at his own home? Why would he hire a cleaning crew to scrub the mansion down the next day? Why would he also destroy his cell phone? Why would he purposely slam the door in the cop's face when they just were questioning him about the rental car? Why indeed? So many different unanswered questions. It's going to be pretty difficult for him to be able to wiggle his way out of that going to be pretty difficult for him to find a way. Also, what was found out that they had a so-called flop house in addition to his apartment, in addition to his mansion rather. He had a second home, like an apartment, whether you want to call it a flop house, whether you want to call it a place to take women, despite the fact that he was engaged to the mother of his infant child. They were able to find more evidence at that house. So, is that second home, that apartment, relevant, Ms. Cavallaro? Is that relevant in this investigation and eventually in this trial?
It certainly could be spun to be very suspicious, like why can't you do whatever you do in the Franklin apartment at home? But what's a problem is, what we hear about right now, that there is this other apartment, might not necessarily reach the jury. One thing that the law is very strong on is they will not allow someone to be convicted because of kind of suspicion and surmise and evidence of other things that seem shady or, other ammunition or a scale or things that reek of criminal activity. Like, you can't say to the jury, look at this person. He's the kind of person who probably does bad stuff. You have to have a much tighter connection. There has to be a reason why they need to learn about that apartment. Now, they may have that reason because I know a baseball hat and some other stuff were found in the Franklin apartment that are going to perhaps link into the video images. But unless they can link it up like that, they can't just say, look at all these other shady things he's been involved in, use that as a jumping off point to decide that he's probably the kind of guy that did this. And courts are going to be very careful.
Courts are going to be very, very careful. But like I said, that's going to be still a mountain of evidence. Now, hopefully, this prosecution team for the family of Olden, hopefully this prosecution and this police force have done their due diligence in terms of getting the warrants, getting what they need to do so that this isn't a case that's thrown out on a technicality or evidence isn't thrown out. Because that's very, very important. Because this is a very, very wealthy man in Aaron Hernandez. And it seems as if he's as dirty can be. Just a pure evil man. Because once you've been able to make this amount of money, there's no excuses for you still living as if you're some street thug, some gangster. And make no mistake about it, despite, and we'll go into it at a young age, his father dying and him going spiraling out of control and downhill. You're talking about Bristol, Connecticut. This isn't South Central LA. This isn't Compton. This isn't Central City, Louisiana. You understand what I'm saying to you? This isn't the south side of Chicago. This is a place where you have to go to look for the gangs. There's gang activity, but it isn't a case where you're drawn into it despite your best efforts, that you really can't avoid it. You can avoid this type of activity if he truly wanted to. And for him to continue it despite a stellar career, though riddled with problems and warning signs at Florida, still, you have to wonder why he was still involved in this activity unless he was just an evil, dirty man. Now, the question is, people always say, is he being overcharged? Is he not being treated fairly because he's a rich man? Or is he been kind of kid gloves because he's a rich man? So the final question we had for Ms. Cavallaro was exactly that. How is he being treated?
I don't think so. I think the celebrity cuts in some degree the other way. That is to say, he's got the means and the reason to get the heck out of here if he does get bail. And on a crime of this level of seriousness, any ordinary person would have a strong temptation not to appear for subsequent appearances. So I think the fact that he's being held is not inappropriate or out of the ordinary given the nature of the crime. You know, if the Commonwealth's allegations are to be believed, it's a pretty cold, premeditated kind of a crime. It's about as bad as it...
Bad as it gets. Bad as it gets. And I agree wholeheartedly, 100%. We want to thank Rosanna Cavallaro, Suffolk Law School professor, colleague, and former employee of the legendary Alan Dershowitz. She took time out this week to talk to me after I made a call inquiring about this case, and the Sports Parade magazine. I know my listeners appreciate getting that legal perspective, not just from any lawyer, but from a lawyer that's involved in a lot of criminal cases throughout her career, teaches it, and is from that area. So she brings that dynamic that gives you a well-rounded aspect. Now, we went over the timeline of the murder. But let's go back, because we're going to talk about Urban Meyer at University of Florida, who's now the Ohio State head coach, and Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots. These two guys are supposed to be squeaky clean, good guys, and blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 as I like to call foolish. Fool. Because both of them knew this kid was as dirty as the day is long. Dirty as the day is long. As my late mother used to say, crooked as a ram's horn. Crooked as a ram's horn. But they overlooked everything. And you know what this is about? When I was talking to my friend Peter Forrest, an excellent photographer, sports journalist, sports photographer, does a lot of modeling shoots, really a master of photography on all phases. And we talked about this because he's a former sports information director, so he brings a unique perspective. And we talked about this was the case of the arrogance. We often overlook when somebody is very good, if they're good musically, if they're a great actor or actress. Whatever the case may be, we tend to overlook the wrongdoings. And for Bob Kraft to get up there, we'll talk about that as being saying he was duped. And for Urban Meyer to basically be silent, knowing you had these type of activities and the potential, I wonder about the litigation from the Odom family going forward in terms of in the NFL's liabilities. We're going to talk about that, but let's talk about him as a young man. You know, supposedly during his time in high school, he was a star player at Bristol Central High School, and then a tragedy struck before his senior year. His father died January 2006, complications from a routine hernia surgery. You know, very close to his father, as most fathers are, big influence on his life, devastated. So he responded by lashing out at his family, smoking marijuana, spending his free time hanging around with the rough crowd in Bristol. Remember, this is Bristol, Connecticut. This is not South Central LA. This is not Compton. This is not Central City, New Orleans. This is not South Side of Chicago. This is an area where he had to go looking for the bad crowd. The bad crowd wasn't just going to be infiltrated wherever he goes, and he couldn't avoid it. He wanted to be a rebel. He wanted to be hard, and he was angry. He wasn't the same kid. Was not the same kid. And that's from family members that told that to US Today in 2009. Now remind you, own family members said that in 2009. However, despite all of this, like we said, the arrogance of talent, and people overlook whatever it is that you're doing when they know it's morally and ethically wrong. I'm talking about you, Urban Meyer. I'm talking about you, Bob Kraft. I'm talking about you, Bill Belichick. I'm talking about you, Roger Goodell, Commissioner of the NFL. Because we'll get into that. If you can spend millions of dollars and have FBI-level investigations secured in the NFL, and you're concentrating on the Saints and Bountygate, where was your concentration on a murderer, a killer, a gang member? Now you may say, well, you know, listen, we'll get into that. But you knew it was much more than his drug use and his background that this kid was involved with. To have an active gang member in the NFL, wow, that speaks volumes about the NFL and professional sports and our all too eagerness as fans in this country, sports fans, to basically overlook and look the other way for anything. So despite all these things going on with Hernandez, as I take you through it, he still set so many national high school records. Nearly 200 yards receiving in the game. Just 1,800 yards and 17 touchdowns his senior year. You know, the death didn't change anything on the field. It's just off the field. and no one seemed to be able to rein him in and control him. Now, originally, Hernandez was going to follow his footsteps and attend the University of Connecticut like his father. But after that, that changed everything. He signed a letter of intent with Urban Meyer at the University of Florida right there. The minute he hit Gainesville, January 2007, it was trouble. Trouble. First of all, he didn't play that much as a freshman. Only had 9 catches for 151 yards, and the Gators weren't that good. They were 9-4. But off the field, 17-year-old Hernandez was arrested after an altercation outside a bar in Gainesville. Right? Hernandez received deferred prosecution in the case, but the case was so bad, he busted the eardrum on video that they have it after sucker punching a guy outside the club. Think about that. He broke the eardrum of a guy sucker punching him. Cowardly. 17 years old. That much anger, that much violence. Should have been prosecuted for that. They received deferred prosecution. Why do you think? Because it was Gator country, baby. Gainesville. Hernandez, the power of the University of Florida, the power of Urban Meyer, and the power of the boosters and the backers and the prosecution. They deferred prosecution in the case. Okay, that's when he was 17. A few months after that, he was questioned on another matter. September 29th, after the Gators lost to Auburn, in a shooting that left 2 men wounded, 1 critically. Hernandez and 3 other Florida players were questioned in regards to the incidents because many eyewitnesses said they were last seen arguing with the shooting victim, one of the shooting victims that left 1 critically. According to the Florida Senator, though, friends of Hernandez from Bristol were in town for the game, and they provided alibis for him. Once again, he escapes, but obviously was very much involved in that shooting. And you're talking about a kid that at the time is still 17 years old. 2008 didn't start any better for Hernandez, who was suspended for 1 game, the opener, for admitting that he smoked marijuana in a positive drug test. That's it. But after that, with everything, you just suspend him 1 game, he's already burst a man's eardrum, sucker punching him outside a club that has video proof evidence that would have sent him probably at the very least to probation or some jail time. You covered that up. He's involved in question in a double shooting that leaves 1 man critically injured. There's no further prosecution because of very suspect alibi. Now the marijuana. But all you do is suspend him, Urban Meyer, for 1 game. Why? Because you want him on the field. That's not even a slap on the wrist. That's nothing. That's the proverbial 2-minute timeout for your 2-year-old. After all those off-field issues seemed to quiet down, Hernandez started to grow because Urban Meyer wanted him more involved in the offense. And he had 57 receiving yards, leaving all, Florida players, and led the Gators and Meyer to the 2009 National Championship game against Oklahoma. So it all seemed to be falling in place. All, great next year. 68 passes, 858 yards, 5 touchdowns, won the John Mackey Award as college football's top tight end. And according to Urban Meyer, he believed that Hernandez had turned the corner. What corner, Urban Meyer? What corner, fool? What corner? What corner did he turn? He turned the corner that he was a better player than when he walked in at 17 years old. He was a better athlete. He was a more mature athlete. He was a stronger athlete. He was a more rounded football player. But fool, don't make the statement that he seems to have turned things around. He's never been made to pay for anything. The gang activity, the shootings, the sucker punches, the assault and battery, nothing. Urban Meyer just went on to say, I just think there's a part of his life where there was not the discipline, and now he has it. He has it from me and the Florida University of Florida football program. That's just ridiculous. That's just so pathetic. So pathetic. You know, Hernandez's mother shared her belief that he's my Aaron again. I know everything's getting better. It took him 3 years, but he's back. I thought I lost him for good. Baby, you did lose him for good. All he did was able to escape the long arm of the law, escape justice. And it's something that you're supposed to teach kids. He never knew that there were consequences to his actions, and he's never been able to pay the price for those consequences until now. And now you find one person dead, a family devastated, and maybe even more murders under his belt. Maybe if somebody had said something, it would have changed everything around. And in hindsight, it now appears to be wishful thinking by his mother. Draft day, of course, he starts to slide in 2010. Despite the talent, many teams knew of the checkered past, they knew of the assault and batteries, they knew of the shooting cases, they knew of the drug use. So he tried to get ahead of that with his agent by sending a letter. If I'm drafted, I'll agree to whatever you want, any kind of drug test, and if I don't test positive, I shouldn't get paid, blah, 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 blah. He understands that combined with the marijuana use and the gang concerns and the violent criminal history that he's never been able to make to pay for, but that everyone was well aware of in the NFL, that, you know, some teams may back off him. You think? You think? Look, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm always one to say, I'm not going to be a fool. I'm always one to say we need more thugs and less choir boys to make a run at a championship. But the kind of stuff this guy was involved with, this ain't thug-like activity. This is like really, this is thug to the 10th degree. This is some bad, dirty stuff. So, the Patriots decide to take a chance on him with the 113 overall pick. And of course, the evil empire, the great tradition, the Patriot way, it's going to be the Patriot way. Going to be the Patriot way. Bill Belichick, Bob Kraft, they can touch anybody. And once they touch him, it's like gold. And guess what? He made an impact. Second NFL game, 6 passes, 100 yards. You know, New York Jets making him the youngest player since 1960 to top 100 receiving yards in a game. Finished that rookie year, 45 catches, 563 yards. I mean, he was on fire. He was on fire. He was going to be the man. Rewrite what's known as that tight end position. 2011 campaign went even better. Called in 79 catches for 910 yards, 7 TDs for the Patriots. And they went all the way to the Super Bowl. Was a Pro Bowler. But perhaps just as importantly, he didn't have any trouble off the field. Or so we thought. Or so we thought. Now, there's all these different investigations. Maybe he just learned to be a smarter crook. But given the fact that they had all this video timeline evidence that would put the piece together, and he destroyed, he would actually go to his own home with a gun, rent the car in his own name, be that arrogant, you know, maybe he wasn't that smart. But in August 12th, just a year ago, less than a year, they gave him a 5-year, $40 million extension. 5 years. And he said he was humble. He even gave $50,000 of his money, which is a drop in the bucket. Let's face it, a drop in the bucket given the massive amount of money that was guaranteed in that contract and a signing bonus to Bob Kraft's deceased wife, the charity that he started. And, you know, this phases into the part that I want to tell you about, you know, Bob Kraft. You know, if this was any other NFL owner, if this was Al Davis' son, who everyone loves to hate, the Davis family. They're buffoons, they're idiots, they're the darkness of the league, they're the bad boys. Or if this was even a Tom Benson, as evident about the way this team is treated during Bountygate. That fake investigation, taking away draft picks, taking away a coach, historic things that were done by Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell, Bob Kraft, Bill Belichick, Urban Meyer, big hypocrites. For those of you that don't know, the NFL and each team, they have access to the best that law enforcement has to offer this side of the Secret Service, the FBI, and the CIA. They know everything about the players. No, they're not following them day by day to know if they're killing somebody or raping somebody, but I guarantee they know that you have gang affiliation tattoos on your hands, on your knuckles. They also know that you're on Facebook, YouTube, pledging your allegiance to that gang up until the time that you sign this contract extension. They know that. They have access to that. But it didn't matter, because to them, he could flat out ball, like T.I. says, ball. He could ball, and that's the only thing that mattered. That's the only thing that mattered. That's sad. That makes me wonder, what type of liability are they going to have? The NFL, Bob Kraft, Bill Belichick, they had a known gang member. One of the things in this Roger Goodell case, when Jonathan Vilma sued him, they did not want him deposed or the NFL commissioner put on a stand in a court of law. Imagine the potential lawsuits if there's a conviction, which seems pretty good that they will be in this Hernandez case. Imagine having Bob Kraft, having Goodell, having Belichick on stand, opening up the books of the NFL, how it works. Don't you have FBI agents? Don't you have ex-CIA people? Don't you have the best investigation team of any corporation in this country? You didn't know he was on YouTube and Facebook pledging allegiance to gangs as recently as this year? You didn't know that he was being civilly sued for shooting a man in the eye? You didn't know? You didn't know about the flop house. You didn't know about him hanging around with drug dealers, with gang members. You didn't know about that? Everyone else in Bristol did. Everyone in that club knew. Odin's sister knew. Odin himself knew. You know what? Guess who I'm with? Football, NFL. He's warning her. He's telling her. It's almost like speaking from the grave. All these things were known. And what did Belichick do? What did Urban Meyer do at Florida? What did the NCAA do? What did Goodell do? Nothing. They allowed it to go on. They turned the other cheek. Just think about just before he was arrested. June 2013, a lawsuit filed by Alexander Bradley. Civil complaint that an argument in a strip club led to Hernandez firing a gun, striking him in the face and causing the loss of the man's right eye. 4 days later, it was withdrawn, only to be refiled a day later. Guess what? The body of Odin was found that same day. Guy was a thug, a gangbanger. Didn't make a difference if he had $0 when he was in high school, or he was getting paid under the table, maybe, at Florida, or if he had $45 million with the extension that he was given. and the guaranteed money of $15 or $16 million didn't make a difference, because in his heart he had larceny. In his heart he had evil. In his heart he had dirty. Did not have respect for human life. Arrogance. The arrogance of talent, the arrogance of athletes, the arrogance of anyone that's been excused their whole life based upon the fact that they have some particular gift or skill. I can get away with it. Look, I can tell Bob Kraft, you know I'm dirty, you know I'm scum, but here's $50,000 for your wife's charity I want to donate, and I want to be a role model to Hispanics. Right before he goes to a strip club and shoots a man's eye out. Right after Boston police believe that he's responsible for murdering 2 individuals in the middle of a busy Boston street where the bodies were found. Blood flowing into the sewer. Question remains, are they able to make the case? Everyone's stepping forward now. You got current all-pro players on the team. Knew this kid was no good. Never liked what he stood for. I don't blame the players. I don't blame Tom Brady. I blame that head coach who knew this kid was scum and dirt, a dirtbag. I blame Bob Kraft, who's trying to protect his ass by coming out, oh, I was duped. I really thought this young man, you trying to protect your ass just like Adele did by coming down so hard on the Saints, trying to protect his ass from future lawsuits by saying, look what we did our own member, look what we did our own brethren Tom Benson, look what we did our own member in New Orleans Saints. Just like that was a cover-up, this is simply a cover-up. The NFL, they've had nothing to say other than, we're going to let it play out in the court. You know why you have nothing to say? Because you're as guilty as sin. You can't run away from this. And he's getting, Bob Kraft, for one, was making me sick to my stomach. He's getting all this attention about, turn in all your Hernandez jerseys and we'll replace them for free. May cost us $60,000 to $70,000, but we'll give you another one. What the hell? Man's worth $400-500 million. I'm supposed to be impressed by that damn token? Of course you don't want Hernandez jerseys on TV every Sunday in your stadium. Walking around the streets of Boston on the backs of little children. You're responsible for this black mark on the league. You're responsible ultimately for this death, because maybe if this guy was made to pay a price of not playing in the NFL or being a free agent that was barely making $100,000 or being suspended for the allegations of what he was involved with going back to Florida with Urban Meyer, creating an incident where a man could lose his hearing by being sucker punched, or a man that lost his sight in one eye from a gunshot wound. You knew the evidence was there. You had your own investigators. You had Boston police. You had people telling you. You had Connecticut police. You had people telling you this. But because he was talented, you looked the other way. You're just as guilty. That's an accessory before the fact, not after the fact. And you can always wrap yourself in a cloak of, I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know he would kill anybody. I knew he might beat the shit out you, but I didn't know he would kill anybody. I knew he liked to smoke a little weed and kick somebody in the ass and sucker punch him, bust their eardrum. But I don't think he'd do that. Yeah, I knew he still loved the Bloods, still loved his gang. I didn't think he would actually do a drive-by. That's the excuse? Really? That's the excuse. Wow. I tell you what, this case is really, really, really going to show just what the NFL, Bill Belichick, and Bob Kraft are all about. And I hope that a light today in the Sports Parade Magazine podcast and in future media around this country, and maybe in a civil case, shines a light on the hypocrisy and the dirty deeds of allowing an active gang member to be in the league. That's the kind of news you get, the opinion you get with the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. Not that soft like cottonelle tissue media that don't want to say the obvious. I'm going to tell it to you, baby, straight, with no chasing, because I'm Mark Clark, the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. Now you remember, you follow me on Twitter, @MarksWord or @Sports Parade Mag, or you simply go to sportsparademagazine.com, because I don't play games, baby. I give it to you straight, with no chaser. And we'll be right back at you tomorrow with the Sports Parade Magazine podcast.
Mark Clark, the man.
Okay, we walk off in it, ballin' in it, okay. Hopping out of Lambos and Ferraris in it, popping bottle with a thick red supermodel chick. They may talk a lot of that, but they can't do a lot of it. Aye, Rico told me turn the lights on, so I grabbed the Audemars, threw the ice on. I'm a big dog, got a pissed off. A lot of rappers out, but ain't none near raw. They like, hey, look at T.I., ballin' in the V.I. Bunch of bad raw with them looking like a Leo. We just pull up, hop out, go in, show out. Buy the whole bar, pop bottles, go hard, this club so packed.
These girls so drunk, this club so packed. These girls so drunk, this club so packed. These girls so drunk.
I got a bottle, got my money and I start ball, 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 ball. I got a bottle, got my money and I start. The club full of bad bras and they came to play. Okay, it must be cause it ain't your fate. Now if you looking for them bottles and them stacks, girl, then make your way up to my section where it's at, girl. Okay, now do you wanna kick it with somebody with a meal ticket broke, so they looking mad, they just gotta deal with it. Get right, girl, roll the dice, girl. And you ain't gotta be ashamed cause you like, girl. But every day I strip behind the wall, I do a big ride, fly, stun, shining ball. I got a bunch of money, so come and get it from me, and a bucket full of bottles. Bust it open if you want it. Big club so packed.
These girls so drunk, this club so packed. These girls so drunk, this club so packed. These girls so drunk.
I got a bottle, got my money and I start ball, 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 ball. I got a bottle, got my money and I start ball.
Ain't like a young money, young. Pop that pop like a pull a trigger. Shake that like a salt shaker. I keep an L lit up like an elevator. Shake it like a dog, hot like a frog, ride it like a horse. I throw that like darts. Drink all muddy, flag all bloody. I'm killing these hoes like Ted Bundy. I'm a good looking rapper, I ain't trying to stunt. I'ma fire my body like Donald Trump. Where you at? Where you at? Can a nigga stick his key up in your back, sir?
This club so packed.
These girls so drunk, this club so packed. These girls so drunk, this club so packed. These girls so drunk.
I got a bottle, got my money and I start. And do the thing in slow motion like so. Slim and come around, wipe it down like smooth sitting. Bet a thing up for me and show me that you love me. If it's really too much for you, you can bring a couple buddies. Every day I do my thing, big stones and chains. She let me drill all in her mouth, no Novocaine. Your mother cat broke, so they did what told you thing. I can put you on that G4 and show you thing. I like my woman fat booty, pretty toes and thing. Long hair, don't care, long as none down there. If it's manicured, I can have fun down there. Take you to whatever club, throw some money in the air. This club so packed,
These girls so drunk. This club so packed. These girls so drunk. This club so packed. These girls so drunk.
I got a bottle, got a bottle.